For as long as I can remember, I've always wanted to explore Petra, to be able to scramble around amongst those ancient rock-cut tombs and experience what this place is really like. And Petra does not disappoint. If anything, it's even more fascinating in reality. But that's not all. I also wanted to capture the city and recreate it in Unreal Engine. And I will share this process on this channel. But it's a lot of work to do, so let's get started. Good morning everyone, and welcome to the Reconstructing Petra tutorial series. So what I'm going to do today is a scan reveal. So I'm going to show you everything that I captured when I was on location in Petra in Jordan. And it was quite a lot of scans, and it takes a long time to go through them all and make them ready for Unreal Engine. But that's eventually where they are going to end up. So this is kind of a loose introduction to the whole tutorial series. I just want to go through everything that I have and share some thoughts, what I thought when I was on the location, what I think now when I see the results. So for instance here we got the Treasury, so we can start digging into that first. But I think maybe around 20, at least 20 different sites that I did scan under. I had 3 days to do it. So it was quite intense. I woke up early in the morning when the sun rose and went into the rock city. And then I scanned there until it got dark pretty much. So let's see what I captured. Let's start with the Treasury, the Kasne it's called. And this is, of course, the most famous rock-cut tomb in all of the Petra complex and famous for the Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade movie. And it is absolutely as impressive in real life as you thought it would be. It's a super cool tomb. And there is one more tomb that is kind of like this. It's called the monastery. I'll show you that in a bit. And these two are the heroes of the whole complex. But the whole place is much bigger than you think it is. So most people would know this one and maybe seen a few others, but there's literally hundreds of tombs. And we'll take a look at them and see what I could capture and see how that looks like. But first, let's check out the Treasury here. So it comes in at 404 million polygons when I scan this whole area here. So you can see it's kind of tough to move it around, but it works. So that's including all of this top here. So once we cut it out a bit, it's going to be smaller than 404 million. But you can also see that I pretty much only had reach from the bottom pointing up. So this is, of course, not ideal. So what you want is to be able to catch it from the top as well. Now, I did have the possibility to catch it from the top because there is some rocks behind here. And I should have... let's see here, it came in a different component because it couldn't solve it. So let's see here. So this is the one from the top. I was hoping that it could solve it and put it together. You can see I'm standing on a ledge here. You actually have to go quite a far to get to this point. And then there is a possibility to get to this point here as well, but it actually takes a couple of hours to come to this side. But then maybe they could have been fused together. But as it is now, I didn't have any success in combining them together. So I will have to either hand merge these by eye or just use this as a reference. But this one also has a lot worse quality because I'm further away. But let's go back to the original here. So what I did get is a lot of these where I'm walking around the ground. And this is pretty much it. It's pretty much what I could do in order to capture it all. So there's no lack of detail anywhere, except it gets a little bit fuzzy in here. And of course, you don't get these parts here. You can see where there's blue. That didn't work. So, but otherwise, it came out pretty successful. Now, I did this in 2 takes. First time was when I was coming in, and I waited until maybe 5 o'clock in the evening. So it got a little bit too dark, and I had to raise the ISO to 400. And I could see that the details were starting to slip a bit there. The grain or the noise would eat up some of the detail. So the next day I could use ISO 200, but I probably should have aimed for an ISO 100 shoot as well. Because what happens is when you up the ISO, The noise will kill a little bit of detail. It's not that much, especially not at 200 and not at 400 either. It's still within the okay limit, what I think. But what you also do is dynamic range in the texture. So if I want to up the shadows here, the higher you go with the ISO, the more crunch the dynamic range becomes. So that's what you actually want to avoid, because you want to be able to get the shadows away from so it becomes a flat, diffuse texture in the end. But yeah, I used a simple technique, just taking one step, taking a photo, and then going a couple of times backwards and forwards, and I think I have it. And whatever is left, I can easily sculpt in and repair by myself. But let's take a look at the detail here, what it got to. So even here, you can see there's plenty of detail up to here, and even there you can see everything there. So I am using a Fuji GFX 100S to scan these. That's a 100 megapixel camera, and that's as high as you can get. That is insane amounts of pixels, and I'm just happy that it actually worked. It's one of the tests. This is the first time I'm using that kind of a high resolution camera, but it actually works. I didn't have any big problems at all to scan, to let the RealityScan handle these large images, and it does pay off. You do get a lot more detail. So the reason I used it and not a 24 megapixel camera, which I think is usually more than enough, it's because when you come to these sites, you often can't get as close as you want, because here it's forbidden to go past this limit here, so that's why I have to stay there, or else I would of course gone in and taken from every angle as much as I could. And you don't want to use a zoom lens for this either, because that becomes very complicated. But if you have a very high resolution image, you can kind of use that as a zoom lens, and you can get a lot of detail out of it when you're quite far away. Let's take a quick look in Lightroom as well. So this is where I have all the images here, and can see the detail. So this is 100 megapixel in all its glory. And you can see it's quite a lot of detail there when I zoom in. So this really does help in these situations. If I check the shooting here, it's shot at ISO 200, a 35 millimeter lens equivalent. That's a 28 millimeter, because the GFX is a medium format camera. So 28 millimeter becomes a 35 millimeter in full frame format. So that's how that works. And the aperture is 8.0, which is pretty much optimal aperture. Now in this case, I could probably have gone down to 5.6 and shot it at ISO 100. That could have been even better. But I'm actually kind of new to the GFX system like this when I'm scanning. So there are a few things I need to sort out. And this is why I'm doing these videos as well. I'm going to analyze, and I'm going to think and learn and try to figure out what I can do better. So when it comes to aperture, it all depends on how far away you are from the subject. So an f5.6 in this situation, because I'm quite far away when I am taking the images, everything's going to be sharp anyways. And at f8.0, it's definitely going to be sharp. And I don't want to go too much higher. I actually don't want to go to like f16, where you get the sharp pretty much back to front. You could use it if you get really close. So yeah, it probably warrants its own video, how to explain what aperture you should use and how far away you should be. But what you want to do, there's some certain things that you need to get to, and that's getting as low ISO as possible and getting the f-stop as not as high as possible, but at least to 8 or something like that. That's recommended. But it's tricky. Well, in essence, you want the whole image to be sharp back to front, or the important details, at least. That's the important thing. You don't want anything that looks blurry. And in this case, I used a shutter time of 1/30th. Now, that worked very good for my camera. So you need a camera with image stabilization. I can't stress how useful that is when you're doing photogrammetry, to have an IBIS built in, because then you can go down to 130 and still handhold it when you go around. Because the last thing you want to do is to have to pull out the tripod, because it's going to slow you down significantly when you do that. So I might have been able to go to 1/15th, but I think I would get some blurry shots then. At 1/30, I didn't get any blurry shots when I was handholding it, so I'm very happy with that. So all in all, pretty good success. I'm definitely going to be able to use this. Let's take one more look here. You can see. It's also a very good lens I have on the camera. I really like it. It's not only sharp edge to edge, at least definitely at f5.6 and f8. It's also very resistant to backlighting. That is when you get the sun shining into the lens. So that's actually super important when you do this, because the sun is always going to be somewhere. If you walk around an object, you're going to get the sun into the lens. And if you have a low quality lens, it's going to bloom out and you're going to lose a lot of contrast. When you do that, it almost becomes unusable. So if it's got very good control over that, it's a good lens. And this one has, compared to some others that I've used, this one is absolutely fantastic. But all right, let's pull up the monastery instead. And here we have the monastery. So this one is actually on the opposite end from the Treasury in the Petra rock complex, that is, and quite far away, and it's hard to get to. But when I was doing my hiking out to this, I actually came from the other side. So this is the first scan I did, and this is the first thing that I encountered, because I was doing a 4-day hike through the desert and sleeping in the desert and then coming in the back door, so to speak, into the Petra complex. So this is the first thing I would see. And it's getting kind of late here. It's around 5 in the afternoon, so sun is getting a little bit low. But I thought I'd grab it anyways. I was super tired, but I thought I'd just scan it nevertheless. So you can see there are a few things here that I regret, but it's also part of why I got this camera, because what I want to do is be able to take a lot fewer images and still get good results. Because here's the thing as well, when you're out scanning like this, time is also super important for the quality. So there's not always going to be the same weather. If you take a lot of images, it's going to take a long time. Let's say it takes 3 hours to make one scan. You're not going to have the same light the hour 1 as you have an hour 3. It might go down, the sun might come out, and all kinds of things can happen. You can get rain, for God's sake, everything. So you want to finish it as fast as possible, taking as few images as possible without losing any quality. So that is the balance that we are trying to achieve. And here maybe I could probably have taken a few more images. So I did 2 passes, one going this way and then one going that way. But you see, it clocks in at 150 million polygons. So that's way more than I'm ever going to need. And you can see in the end, I'll probably go down. Maybe not as low as 2 million, but 4 million probably would be a good for this one. Or maybe, we will see. I have to think about that, how maybe I split it up into different pieces there. But you can see I get all the details I want out of this. There's nothing that's really lacking anywhere. And I'm not going to keep the ground necessarily. So I don't need that. But maybe it could have been nice to take a pass where I actually get the ground in as well. But that could always be sculpted in quite easily and textured by hand. So now that it comes to these things, the challenge is where to cut it off as one object. How much of these cliffs should I include, and how should I do it? Should I separate these into separate objects? Should this be divided into different objects? That's all things that I have to figure out during this project, how to handle big things like this. But as you can see, I also need to do a lot of sculpting here to get this in, and a lot of cleaning up to do. And I took I think I took 3 steps between each image. So one of the good things with the GFX as well is that it has a 4:3 ratio on the sensor and not a 3:2. So a normal full frame camera is kind of squeezed. It's got a 3:2. So when you hold it in portrait mode, which you often want to do, because surprisingly often the subjects that you're scanning are tall like this. So you don't want to necessarily hold it in landscape mode when you go around. Now, you can do it if you have a high resolution camera like this. It really doesn't matter, but and I think in this case I might have, I actually did it in landscape mode because I found it worked quite fine. But I still like the 4:3 aspect ratio. You can see it's much more square. If they had one that was completely square, I would buy that camera in an instant because it makes it so much easier to overlap images when it's not as narrow. If you get a little bit sloppy with a 3:2, you could actually end up with gaps. But with the 4:3, you just have so much more overlap. It becomes easier. That's why I love a GFX for scanning. Now, even though the monastery was the first tomb I scanned in the Petra complex, this one was actually the first one I did altogether, because this one is a bit outside of the Petra complex. It's in a place called, well, Little Petra, because it's a narrow canyon with just a handful of tombs like this. But I thought I'd grab it and see what it looks like. So I'm trying to practice my technique here, that taking as few images as possible. So I'm just going around one lap here, taking 5 steps in between or something like that. And for what it does, it captures everything pretty well, I think. It's a lot of detail in here. Let's see how let's see how big it came in. So this is the original here, without it being cleaned up or anything. 137, but that's with some stuff here as well. So you can see you get pretty much everything that I possibly could get. Now, could have been nice if I actually went up the stairs here and took a few more images around. But this one was very much on the go and kind of like a warm-up scan as well. I had been hiking for a couple of days, like I said, and yeah, was eager to get into Petra proper, so I thought I'd grab a quick one. And I think I got a lot of detail out of this. Now, this is rock and things, so it's kind of easy to repair. It's not a big deal if you miss a little bit here and there. I guess it's more important if you have something that requires a huge amount of accuracy. Now, I want this to be as accurate as possible, of course, and I want to repair as little as I can. But I also know that when I'm in the field, I can see if it's easy to repair or not. So I think when you're out there, you should always try to think about repairability. Take a few images of the rock close up, just texture images, so you can have that for painting textures. So you're never caught out when you do this. And so you don't have to think that it's game over just because you got a little bit of gaps here and there. You can always repair it. Just use your normal 3D skills and get it done. So that's what I'm going to do with this one. Now, the second thing here that's problematic is, of course, the light. Now, you can't always control the light, especially when you're out like this. You only have one chance. I can't camp out for a week here waiting for it to be like a perfect gray dome. So what I got to do is handle it anyways. And that's another reason why I got the GFX, because of that dynamic range I was talking about. So what it does, the dynamic range, this is the perfect example. So you can store all the information of the sunlight here, and you even got information all the way down into the shadows. So the GFX has, I think it's about 15 stops of dynamic range, and compared to a full frame camera, which is maybe between 12 and 13 for a good one, this is by far the best of the stills cameras you can buy. So it's pretty impressive, and definitely something that I hopefully is going to be useful. So that means that I can easily get rid of this by just adjusting the value, raising the shadows and things like that. So, and a scene like this is, of course, very, very hard. So I need to lower the sunlight, and I need to raise the shadows to make them meet in the middle somehow and create a flat surface. And I have a few tricks like that. Sometimes the first port of call is to use the Agisoft Delighter. It's their free tool. You can download it and use it. And I noticed now that I've been doing this, it works really good. When I have all this information in there, it actually does a very good job. I've tried it before And it's been mixed results. You get something, but it's maybe not really what I wanted. Sometimes it's better to just do it yourself. But now I've been getting some really good results, but just with this here, when I'm using these 16 stops of light baked in. So I'm curious to see if I can solve it with that, because that's so much easier than it's done. Once you have to paint in every nook and cranny, get everything out. Yeah, it's a time sink. You eventually get there, but it's not fun. So let's check out some more tombs. Now I got to warn you, this might drag on a bit, these scan reveals. Eventually I will start talking less and less about the things, but I am going to show you everything, all the things I've scanned, so you get an idea of what you need to create a full environment if you're doing something like this. So hopefully you stay to the end, but yeah, let's get cracking. We've got much more to show. And this one is also from Little Petra. This is the second one I did. And as you can see, I actually only have the point cloud here. I have not yet created this one. So let's do that. And let's check how we do it. So for these preview things, I will use the high detail, but for now, I'm actually going to use the normal detail, and it still works for me. That just means that the images are going to be downscaled, so you lose, you're down to a quarter of the resolution, so to speak. So a 100 megapixel will be a 25 megapixel image instead. Still plenty, so we're going to see what it does. But I'm going to hit the normal detail for this, and we see what it looks like. Okay, the reconstruction is done, and it actually only takes a few minutes. So, and that's because I don't really have that many images here, but since they're so high resolution, I still get quite high quality. So I can kind of compensate that they are 100 megapixel, even though right now they were downscaled, but that is how I can do it, because you can't have like 1,000 images, 100 megapixels, or maybe you can, but I think it might be a challenge. So you have to kind of compromise then, so you get some kind of speed into it. But this only took like 3 minutes to generate, and we can of course get better quality than this. But I'm also going to put some kind of a texture on it. So you need some big repairs here. Fortunately, I cannot fly, and since this was in Jordan, I wouldn't be allowed to fly drones. It's forbidden there, so didn't even bring mine. Or else it would be nice to just take a few images with a drone and stitch it together. Then you would have solved all of these issues, but could not be done. But what I do is I just hit the colorize button. There's no use for the texture button at this stage. That might come into play later in a different way. But right now, we just colorize it to see what it looks like. When you get so many polygons as well, it's going to look very, very sharp and nice with the colorize, because you get a vertex color on here. Each point will get one color. And this took 46 seconds to colorize, so not bad at all. Let's see how big it is. So 46 million polygons I get at this here. So that's probably going to be close to 150 to 200 million when I do the highest quality. So that's plenty. That's more than enough usually. And except for the places where I can't reach, I think I got enough detail. And no cameras has failed as of yet. And I think I got almost none that was blurry either. So the image stabilization in the camera is really, really good. But yet again, I have to figure out how much to include of this here. I mean, it's part of the thing, because it's a tomb, a rock cut tomb. So got to find a natural point where I can cut this off, or what I do. I have not decided quite yet. So we'll see. Okay, let's move on. This is the Petra gateway. So it's not all just rock cut tomb. So there's also some classic architecture around. So this civilization, the Nabatean civilization, was at its height around the time of Jesus Christ, let's say. So it's Roman and a little bit before Romans came. but around year 0, that's when it's peaked. So most of these things are from that time. So you're going to get a lot of Greek and Roman inspired looking architecture as well on the. So this is from the main plaza where they would have temples and all kinds of things. This is the cleaned up model of what remains of the gate. Let me show you the full version. The full version comes in at 741 million polygons. So quite a lot. And since here I can also get a lot closer to the model, there were no restrictions anywhere. You can see I got cameras all over the place to get a full view. So I could capture everything except from the top there, which I have to reconstruct. Let's put some. It's thinking. So what happens also then, it's if you got something that this high, 700 polygons, you can't really visualize the polygons. So this is just a point cloud. So let's go down. I have one here that I've reduced to below 400. You can set this yourself, how many polygons you want your RealityScan to show. And I have a limit somewhere around 400 million. So it all depends on your graphic card. I got a 4090, so I should be able to do it. But it struggles when you have to flip around a 400 million poly like this. And it takes a fair bit of time for it to calculate the pieces here as well. But here you can see I had to jump up and down all over and capture things. And when you're in a place like this, it's there's a few people coming back and forth. Of course, it feels a little bit weird to walk around with the camera like this, and people are looking just a little bit. But you just stay focused and do your thing, and then eventually you will have it done. But it also means that in order to capture everything, you really have to stay focused so you don't miss too much. Because here I could see, I mean, I don't want to spend like 3-4 hours here as well. I want to go maybe max 40 minutes or something before it starts looking suspicious. But that means I don't get into everywhere here, but I think it's still captured most of it here. So it's still pretty good. Maybe this one doesn't have a texture on it. Let's try this on. This is the 100 million polygon version. That one's got the texture calculator on it, so you just see that quickly. But the thing is also, when you are traveling to these destinations, it is a good idea to try to time it when you think you're going to have the worst weather possible, so to speak, because what you want is overcast. You don't want the strong sun. But then again, you don't want to go when it's like full monsoon or anything, because that's going to ruin your day as well. So you have to hit that sweet spot where it's a little bit cloudy, but not raining all the time. Because once this gets wet as well, you have to think, then you get reflections and it gets really hard to scan. So sometimes you have to wait for it to dry up. So that's not perfect either. But I do find that winter is usually when you should go. And to a place like this, in Jordan in January, it's a very good time to go. There was lots of cloudy days, but almost no rain, just a tiny bit in the nights, but that dried up pretty fast. So you can see a lot of detail captured here as well. You can definitely work with this. But I can also see that I could definitely been more thorough and just go over here. This I could easily have reached. But as long as I have textures I can extract from here, I can easily repair this as well. Just sculpt in some detail and that's fixed. This is the Petra Palace. This is one of the grander buildings there as well. Now these probably would have been the coolest buildings of them all, but they have been heavily damaged by earthquakes and things, so you can see a lot of it has collapsed and a lot of the detail is gone. But I can imagine that these looked really fantastic. So this is the palace. Here's the Corinthian, it's called. and a few others. So this was a massive undertaking, and this just shows it's so hard, especially with these rock tubes, because there's not really necessarily a beginning and an end. Where do I stop with this? So I just kept going, and then here there's a different type of tomb here. I thought that would be a good spot to stop, but I did take almost 300 images, 289 images, so that is quite a lot. And it's a huge area as well, and it clocks in at 1.48 billion triangles. So that's huge. Now this one is the reduced version to 100 million. So I use 100 million because I need to sculpt it in 3D Coat. And 3D Coat can only import chunks of max 100 million. You can have more. You can import 2, that is 100 million. But at some point you got to pull the plug as well, where it becomes uncomfortable to work. If you start getting crashes and all kinds of things, it's not really worth it. So for me, I work comfortably when I export 100 million. But there is a hard limit in 3D Coat. You can't have 101 million polygons. It's not going to import it. It's just something that's there. It's a hard limit. But yeah, this... I've been thinking, how I'm gonna tackle this? Would be really cool to have it in, the whole thing, without any seams and everything. But that's usually when you start thinking like that, you get kind of greedy. You want it all, and you want it as seamless as possible. But you're coming up against the realities of the game engine and things like that. If I would do this only for movies, I could figure out ways how to slice and dice it into different parts and get it seamless like this. And probably even use the full 1.4 billion polygons, no problem. But it's not very packageable if I'm going to ship it to somebody else. If I would be working at a studio, yeah, that would be fine. We just do it and get the renders out, because the end product is not the model. The end product is then the final render that ends up on the movie screen. But in this case, I want it into Unreal Engine, so I got to figure out how to get this done. But I'm probably going to have a system where I can kind of slice it up into smaller parts and then puzzle it together. And then... see what it looks like in Unreal Engine. I'll probably make some kind of a blueprint out of this, and also have the capabilities of using each one of these separately and as a big blueprint altogether, something like that. But yeah, we'll see further on in the project how I'm thinking about this. And of course, if you have any good tips how to handle a big thing like this, then why not do that? But I'll think of something. It's not always grand palaces and tombs that you need. You need even these pedestrian things. So this is a pavement. And they are surprisingly hard to scan. I think it's something about the repetitive pattern that the engine doesn't, or RealityScan has problems with when it repeats and it kind of looks the same and it starts failing. It shouldn't really fail, because I took one careful step and there's lots of overlap and everything, but probably need to think about something how to get these to solve better. Sometimes you get success and it solves everything, but in this case it wasn't so good. So I had 58 cams of this, and this one only solved 33, and you can see here I get a couple of ones on the side that did not want to connect. Now there are ways you can do this. Sometimes you can go to the alignment settings, and you got this max feature reprojection error. You want to keep these as low as you possibly can, but if you don't get these to connect to each other, you can get these a bit higher. You can get this up to even 10 or something. Now it's going to be bumpy and there is going to be error there, but it's something you could sculpt away if you want to. But in this case, that didn't work at all. But I don't need too much of this anyways, so I think I'll be fine with... I'm just going to make a displacement map out of this. So I just need a square, something like this. And then maybe a variation that's like this, maybe two or three, and then I can use that as a displacement to get the paving out. But yeah, even these little things here, you got to think about getting that in as well, or else you have to sculpt it when you come back home, and that's maybe not what you want to do. But if your aim is to create a full environment, there's lots of things, lots of little things that goes into that as well. And here we have a pillar. So these goes into the same thing, the little things that you will use quite a lot to fill up, to create a full environment, but that is easy to overlook when you're out there. So you just gotta capture these as well. So I got a few of these pillars here, and this is one of them. And here we have more pillars. So I found this row. I thought I'd scan them all, and then I can pick and choose which ones I want to use. Now I did run into a little bit of a problem here. It did not turn out as well as I thought. Let's see here. So I did 2 laps around, and see, it's quite a lot. It should have worked better than it actually did, but there are some alignment issues. You can easily see there that I got a bit of a lip there, so it's not stitching the 2 sides together as nicely as I thought. Now this could also be something because it should handle it well, but something is wrong, but it just didn't find it there. Very good. I'll show you. Let's go to this, the solid. It's a little bit more visible like this. But it's not a huge deal. I'd have to do a little bit of sculpting to get this to fit together, or I'm going to try a few more tricks here, see if I can't get them to stitch better. I do think I know probably the reason is that the images, you can see here, I have to struggle a bit with the lighting. So it was very strong sunlight, and some of these would have the sun straight into them. I think maybe could it be from this side? Let's see. Yeah. So I think this is probably the issue here. So this is what I'm talking about when to get a good lens that can handle the sun. Now here I actually had to put it behind the pillar to not get the sun to flare out the whole lens. Even with this lens, which is quite good, when you get the sun straight into the lens, you will have problems. Now, alternatively, you can wait a couple of hours and wait for the sun to move around, but then you might get completely different weather. But yeah, it's not optimal when it just points straightly into your lens like this. But I still could get quite a lot of quality out of this because the lens has such good coatings on it, so that's why it holds up. If I used any of my cheaper lenses, it would be just a complete haze when it's this strong. So yeah, but I'm still going to be able to use this. It's just stone pillars. It's easy enough to sculpt, and I'll get the variations out that I want. But it's good to show that this stuff can happen when you get the sun into action there. And now we're coming into the hinterlands of the Petra complex. So this one is called the Renaissance Tomb, and this is kind of behind the main street. So there's a huge area where you can just walk around forever, up and down little mountains and things, and there will be tombs everywhere, and this is one of them. And as you can see, just quite a few cameras here, quite a few shots to capture this. But what is unique with this one is I tried to get the whole thing inside. You can see even now it's moving slowly because it's 287 million polygons. So I still get as much detail as I possibly would need, and it hasn't missed anything that I can't sculpt out. But let's see what it looks like inside. Now this is kind of tricky to get the inside because this passage here, when you go from the outside to the inside and get it to connect together, it can quite often fail. This one succeeded, and it's kind of stitched together, but I did a few others that did not succeed. However, when you do these things, it's good to just take reference images from the inside so you can recreate it yourself. Okay, it's moving crazy and slow. Let's see if I can put that there. So here you can also see you got a lot of these tombs here. Great, there. Where there would be, this is burial tombs. So I didn't catch everything there, but I can probably sculpt this in. So I didn't pay too much attention to get the insights 100% correct, but because I wasn't sure if it's going to succeed or not. And then I thought, when I'm looking at this, just thinking it would be quite easy to sculpt it myself if I needed to. Okay, it's sluggish. Let's look at another one. Okay, we got more pieces. So like I said, I am going to show you everything that I scanned, so I'm not going to hide anything. And this was, of course, kind of a boring scan. It's a lot of images, and I probably didn't need to take that much, but this is to get rubble in there. This is all little pieces of broken buildings. And for some reason, I just couldn't stop. I probably should have just done one like this, but I just kept going, and now I have quite a lot. So I got all the pieces covered up. So this is 910 or 11 million polygons, so very high res. And lots of pieces here. Now, if I want to see them, let's create a clipping box. Let's take... great. And so yeah, I think it kind of worked out. I just walked from all kinds of directions, took a lot of photos from every corner that I could find. But still not crazy amount, so it still didn't take that long to walk all over this place. But when you do that and you have that high resolution, you are going to capture pretty much everything. There's going to be some parts here where I have to do some sculpting, if I want to use this part, of course, or else I just find the ones that are successful and I use those. The Petra temple, this is the Qasr al-Bint, it's called. It's the main temple. Or it's actually not the main temple, but it's it's one of the temple structures that are there, that are kind of well preserved. And as you can see, it's pretty cool. However, it's fenced off here, so I can't get into this place here. But I still get a glimpse of what it would look like. So I got to get sculpting to get these details in. And this is the optimized version as well. So I used this one for the previous. The previous I did in Unreal Engine. But let's see what the original looks like. 93 million, the original is. So this I can probably get high resolution from also. So some of these I did use the normal, or the standard, what's it called? The normal detail instead of the high detail, but I'm going to use the high detail. So this one is going to be 400 million at the end of it. Yeah, so this is after I did the scan in Rome, I kind of figured out I need some way to get the reach, so I can get to things that are here and not lose too much detail. So I would, if I had just a 25 to 30 megapixel camera, this would be all too fuzzy. But here I actually can use this, and I'm happy about that. But yeah. Looks like a lot of work, though. A lot of work. This one is a little bit interesting. This is, well, I'm thinking, how low can you go? You can see it's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 images to create this. So this is also somewhere way out in the periphery, and I thought I wouldn't really want to do a scan. I had enough tombs at the time. But I thought, can I get away with just taking like only 10 images pretty much? And the answer is yeah, this is definitely usable. So in this case I can use very limited amount of images and it still looks pretty good. 9 is crazy low though, but yeah, still 50 million. So so I'm happy about that. So I can actually use this for something if I would like to. Now, it's maybe not the coolest one. I do like these shapes here. They're pretty cool. So, yeah, it's probably going to be used for something. But crazy, nine images, and you get a 50 million poly mesh. That's kind of a high detail and looking nice as well. Here we have the garden tomb, it's called. And it's one of the cooler tombs as well. It's also a little bit hidden away on the hidden paths in the mountains there. But I think it's called garden tombs because of this part here, which looks pretty nice. Now, there are a few problems with this. There are actually people living here. You can see there are remnants of some stuff there. So I couldn't really go in and just go crazy. But I could go in and walk around there if there were no people there, but then they would show up and sit and hang around. And so that is the thing. Some of these tombs on the paths around, there are actually people who have made it their home. And this was probably more like a shop or something where they would sit and sell stuff. But anyways, maybe I can use this for something. Some parts, I love this facade here, and it's just situated perfectly in the valley there. So I have lots of reference images, how the valley looks and things like that, so I can probably recreate it later on. Now the thing I wanted to do, it's like a cool little staircase that goes down here, and you got two more tombs here that are really special as well. It would have been nice to have those connected into one big thing, but it would not solve properly, so it was a bit of a shame. Okay, now we're coming into the big complexes here. So this is actually one of the first ones I did on the first day after I've done the Treasury. I started here as a little bit of a warm-up. So I did this area here, tried to scan these buildings here. And then later on, not even on the same day, I think this is the next day, I did this. But these actually could be solved together. And back here, there's a mountain going up with a stair. So I could actually go up and climb on the rocks here and get a view from above. And they would also solve, so I get a lot of detail on top everywhere here. And I think I get a pretty cool set piece here that I can use. Now I almost wish maybe I took more. Maybe I should have gone around here. But I really didn't think that this would be like one huge connected piece. But I think I'm going to try to use it like that, because it looks so cool when they're all fitted together. If they're just as singles, these maybe not as special, but once you see them just like this, connected together with little stairs going up and around. And look here, you can explore this. I wish I would have gone up here, did some scans up here, but I still get a hint of what it looks like. Get a stair there, and then you probably goes around and you get some kind of a viewpoint there. And maybe there's something in behind there as well, who knows. So yeah, it's such a cool place to explore, the Petra ruins. It's a ton of fun actually. You can just keep going for days there. And look here, there was something in there. I could have captured that a bit better as well. So this is also something I have to figure out. How the hell am I gonna solve this in one big piece? I mean, right now this one is actually not even that high res. Let's see what it is. So that one I'm showing you now, this is only 4 million. So I could definitely do a version that's just 4 million. I think the texture is going to suffer a bit, but it could be used as a set piece for a little bit in the background. But otherwise, I mean, of course, the real version comes in at 428 million, right? Is that... yeah, these are failed cameras up here. 5 failed and 4 failed. So 388 successful ones, and the Model 1 here, this is the whole thing. Comes in at 428 million. This is actually from the main street of Petra. So they wouldn't be living in these elaborate tombs, of course, but this is what the homes would look like. It's just a cutout little square rectangle like this. And inside here you would have living rooms. It might have even been shops and stuff like that selling things. But you got the big street here, and on the opposite side you got the amphitheater. So this is as a central location as it gets. It's one of those downtown properties here. So I just did a pretty simple scan, just walked up and down the street. This one is several hundred meters long as well. So, and this is the simplified version, 4 million. Let's see what the full version looks like. Well, it looks pretty much the same, just much more high res. So yet again, I have to figure out how to get this into pieces. But I thought it looked kind of interesting because I don't just want tombs. There's other things in the city as well, and these elaborate little rock cuts should definitely be in there as well. Another one of these big complexes. And this one is also the 4 million version. So yeah, here I kind of want to keep all of this in as well. But you can see, yeah, it's a ton of work to get this up and running. But let's check out the 165 million is the full version. But this also included a lot of climbing on the rocks and everywhere to get the vantage point to looking down and things like that. So but I do think that I could get such a success that I can be this distance away because of the high resolution camera. It would have been a struggle with anything else, because either then you can use a zoom lens or like a 70 millimeter or a 55 or a 50 or something like that. But then you have to get a lot of images to get them to overlap. So this just solves a different kind of problem where you can still use a wide angle lens, 28 millimeter, but the detail that I would get here would be the same as if I used a 70 millimeter lens. I think roughly something like that. So you kind of get the best of both worlds, and I think that's pretty cool. Let's check out. So this is the camera here. It's a bit of a chunky beast. Fuji GFX 100S. Now these have just come down in price. If you get them on the used market, you can get them for 3,000 euros or something like that. Now they used to cost 8,000 euros, so it's come down quite a bit. And stabilization is really good, and it's got a lot of good features. I'll make a complete video of this sometime in the near future, talk about that. But yeah, I can actually hold this the whole day without getting tired, so it worked fine. So this is that part that I was talking about before, where you come down some stairs here. You can see I did go down the stairs there, but I probably should have taken quite a few more pictures there to get it to connect together nicely. But here are two tombs. This is the Roman soldier tomb, it's called, because it's got some images of Roman soldiers here. And opposite of it is something of a banquet tomb. It's got a very elaborate hall in here. So this one was kind of difficult to scan, actually. There's lots of details, and you can see how much I've missed out here in order to get something working from it. So this might be one of those where I'm not going to finish because it's just a little bit too messy, too much stuff going on that's maybe not workable. Maybe I can extract some of these pieces here, but I really did make an effort to get inside of this tomb here, and I got some pretty good detail inside. So I might get a few pieces out of it, but it's not going to be a complete huge set piece like that. But you can easily see, it's a bit hard to navigate around, but you can see how it looks like on the inside here. And it did connect together because it got some big nice openings here that it's easy to connect together with. And the dynamic range is of course crazy when you go from the inside to the outside, but the GFX handles it probably as good as you can expect any camera to handle this kind of stuff. So we'll see about this one, if it makes it in or not. I'm a bit skeptical. It was a lot of work to do, but I kind of feel it halfway through that I kind of chewed off a little bit more than I should have, because we're getting to take more and more pictures, and the time took longer and longer time. And I thought kind of halfway through that it's probably not going to be worth it, because I kind of discovered how much detail there is around it. And yeah, so this, we'll see. We will see. This is a really cool one. It's called the Urn Tomb. And yeah, I really like how it's got this facade here with the pillars and this entrance here. But also, I did capture some of the insides here. Let's see. It's a 700 million polygon in its original form. This one I'm showing now is to 400, so I can see it with the colors on it. And then I got 100 million as well. Might turn that on if this is too sluggish. But if I turn around here, let's see on the inside. So I got a big hole here I need to fix, but let's see. I just think this looks pretty cool. I mean, I'm happy I captured some of the insides here, because you see how the rock creates these patterns, which is not something you would do if you just would do it yourself. You may just put a rock texture there. But it's quite beautiful when the sun shines in and just illuminates the whole thing in a nice way. Yeah, you can see how it looks when you look out from it here. So this one I have high hopes. This one is going to be one of the major cool set pieces, I think, for sure. And lots of detail here, lots of detail, even all the way up. This is very high up, but there's no crazy bumpiness that you can get. You get that when you have too low detail. It gets very bubbly and things, but this one keeps it together quite high up. So it starts getting stranger and stranger as you go up, but and you lose a bit of detail. But for the most part, it's pretty good all the way through. So yep, this one is going to be good. It's going to be a nice one. And we got some more minor pieces of architecture. This is a piece of wall from the main temple. I actually made a big mistake here, I think. Yeah, you can see here. I think I did a miscalculation when I was walking around. I stopped there. So you see I have a bit of a gap. Still worked out pretty okay. It does lose quite a lot of detail just this here, so I got to sculpt that in. But yeah, now you got to keep your inner GPS got to be functioning, so you know where you start and stop. Usually I would, when I do this, I would either with my foot draw a line in the sand so I know, or I try to start somewhere where there's a little stone or something. So because you think you will remember, but and you might have better memory than I do. But once I'm here, I'm kind of zoned out, and then I don't remember where I started from after some time. So here I clearly missed a piece there. So that's a bit of a shame. So this is in Lightroom. So this little cave here, which I think is probably a store or something, I haven't done it yet, so I don't know what it looks like. So we're going to do it now, live. So to speak, and see what it looks like. So the first thing I need to do when I do a thing like this is I need to fix the images a little bit. So first I need to look through and see if there are any duds among the shots, something that's just completely blurry or anything like that. Now I have checked through them, and it's pretty fine. And like I said, with this camera, I didn't get any blurry shots. The image stabilization has really performed surprisingly well. And it's all good, but what I need to do is still get the exposure correct between the shots. Now, this is just a preview, so I'm not going to be too careful and too fussed about it, but what you would need to do normally is, like you see one of these here. I will go in and then tweak these things. In this case, probably only the exposure. Well, I've done these already. Highlights down, shadows up. That's a good starting point, but I don't always go this dramatic. Highlights all the way down and shadows all the way up, but you can do it. It's good to begin like that. But what you need to look out for, you see this hump here. So this one should be, the hump should be somewhere around this third here. That's usually good exposure, because then you get detail all the way in the shadows and all the way up. because you can see if I go too far, it's going to look over bright. You don't want that. So somewhere around there is a good way to have it. Now, it's a little bit individual from picture to picture, but it's a good rule of thumb or a good starting point to do it something like this. And then you just go to the other ones. You can see this one's way too dark, but probably they're going to be kind of similar. So let's just select one of these and then this and do a sync. Then I select only the exposure and just synchronize that. So they kind of look good. Let's do a little bit there. But I'm not going to be too fussed about this right now. I think they're a little bit too bright actually, some of these. But for the real version, I am going to get the exposure pretty decent or very exact. But right now, I think I want to be a little bit... I don't need to be that careful because it's just a preview. So I would go through all of these, see if there's any outliers that would destroy the images or destroy the solution, the solve. This one is crazy. And this one, need to get up there somewhere. And so on. So I'm going to do that. Just go through this and then we'll export it and see what it looks like. So this is actually quite a big thing. It's 136 images. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit of work, but see you soon. And here we are, all the images are in. And for the previous version, I would use a JPEG. And in the final version that I do, I usually use a 16-bit TIFF or PNG. So let's see what it looks like. So I'm just going to go to alignment. I use mostly the default settings, so nothing to worry about there. Just click the align images. And then we wait a few seconds. And it's done. So it just took a couple of minutes to generate the alignment, and now I also meshed it, but I used the normal detail, and the normal detail comes in at 210 million, which is quite a lot actually for normal detail. So if I extrapolate that, it would be almost 800 million polygons. Now this is because using this high resolution, and when you get close, because I get really close to all of these pillars and everything, it's going to be super high detail then. Many times higher than I would actually ever need. But I think the results are pretty good. Let's see if we can get a look inside. There. Reset view. Let's see if we come back to... There we go. And you can see all of these alcoves are nicely generated as well. So this is a definite success. Inside and outside fits together nicely. So we got ourselves a cave. And here we have another pillar. And here's a third pillar. So in total I did 3 of these where I was getting more detail in. And then I did that long row of pillars as well. So I should have plenty of pillars at least. These ones are also wider and it's different sort than the ones I had in the row. So hopefully this is going to be enough. And here we have another tomb. So this one was slightly problematic because it was fenced in here and I couldn't go up there to get closer. But yet again, I think I got all the details that I need from this distance, and I just need to fill in here a bit. And also got a little bit of a bonus cave here. See, yeah. So I got lots of tombs. You also need a lot of rocks. So I did capture some, but I don't think I captured enough. It's one of those things, when you're amongst these amazing ruins and all these tombs, it's kind of hard to take a look down and just start scanning rocks. But I did capture a few of them, and here's one. It's quite a large rock actually, and got all the detail I want out of that. It's kind of tricky, got a lot of tall bushes around and things like that, so it needs a bit of cleanup. And as usual, it's really hard to get the top in as well. But I do have this one, and I got a few other ones as well. So this is kind of a flat lying rock, and I do think RealityScan has a bit of a problem with things that are on the ground. So you can see I got quite a few cameras that failed here, and it created a bit of a gap. So this is not the first time I have this problem with ground stuff, flat things like this. So I think I have to be more careful in the future when doing this. But I've tried a few things, and it feels like it's a 50-50 chance if I get a good solve or not. Usually something comes out like this, but often I miss a few cameras. So here 4 cameras failed. So I don't know, maybe I need to bring I don't know, some ping pong balls out when I do this, place them around so I get something to grab onto. But I don't know what the reason could be why it struggles more, because it's lots of features here. It's nothing that I see that would make it a problem, but apparently it is. And here we have another large rock, and I really love these rocks with these huge cavities in here. And I tried to capture it as good as possible, and I think I did get quite a lot of stuff inside here. So there's not too much sculpting to be done. As usual, the top is going to be missing. But no, it looks pretty good. And when you do it like this, it's got no problem finding all the cameras. So not one camera failed. 43 shots taken to get this one. But you can see it's there is some. The ground is not looking that good, to be honest. It shouldn't be looking that bad, I think. And I did get some failures, or I got one complete failure, but it's kind of my own fault because I tried to capture this little wall piece of structure with just the 10 images. So it's a bit of an experiment. I wanted to see how low I could go, and this did not work at all. So it became a couple of components with 2 5 cameras. This one's got 4 cameras in it. So I just should have been taking a few more images. But now it completely failed. So I thought it could do it, but I guess the overlap is not great enough. So I have to dial that in a bit better. So we take a look at another one here. That's the one I'm just using. Yeah, not great. But only one failure, so. And it was my own making, I suppose. So now I know that that limit, I can't go that low with the images. I was not only in the Petra complex. I actually went to Wadi Rum as well, which is a little bit south. It's a very cool desert, famous for being the recording places of movies like The Martian. You filmed parts of Dune here as well, and some of the newer Star Wars has been here. So this is also a legendary place. Now, in this specific piece here is a little bit of an experiment. I was kind of thinking how it would be to scan a huge piece of rock here. So this one is maybe 1 kilometer or something like that. It's very long. Took me, going from here to here, took me a long time, probably 40 minutes or something like that, 30, 40 minutes. And I took maybe 50 steps between each image. So I just want to see what would come out of it. And I think I got some pretty good results. So I just took 50 steps, click, 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 click. And I got some quite good detail. And it looks pretty clean as well. So actually a lot better than I thought it would come out. So this I thought I would use mostly for background stuff. When you need big mountains in the background, this could be good. Let's continue on in the Wadi Rum area. So when I was here, I was actually intending to just take photographs, do it more like a landscape photography thing. But after a while, I got fascinated by the rocks and thought I should capture at least a few of them. So I'm probably going to incorporate these into the Petra project as well. And I did think that I probably took a little bit too few rock scans when I was in Petra. So it's good to have a handful more that will fill up the gap there. So This is one structure and it's pretty big. I did some experimentation here as well, where I tried to back up more because I got so much space around. So I used, instead of a wide angle, the 28, I used the 55, zoomed in all the way, or 70 on the medium format. So because then if you stand as far away as you can and you zoom in, you will get a flatter perspective of the rock. So you will get more of the top here in. Not sure if that makes sense, but that's just how it works. If you get closer, you can see here, you will kind of get the perspective, and you get kind of into this situation where these parts here will be hidden. But the further away, the flatter it will get, like this. So you kind of get the whole thing in. So because I got so much space, I thought, okay, I can stand 100 meters away and zoom in as much as I can and use that. And then I also experimented with the spacing here. So I did a few others similar to this one. And one, I don't remember how many steps I had with this one. I think it's quite a lot of steps. I only got 31 cams, 31 shots. So I think this is like at least 25 steps in between each one of these. But these ones are pretty good. When you do get into it, you will notice that there are more errors than you think. But it's just a matter of sculpting it in, and it looks absolutely perfect once you're done. But it actually takes a little bit longer than I thought it would to repair these, because you got to sculpt in all of this here. But it works. And here's another big rock. It's about the same size as the other one, but I used double the amount of cameras. So I got about 70 cams here instead. So that means instead of 25 steps between, I think I had 10 or 15 or something like that. So of course, it's always going to be better the more shots you have. The quality is going to go up, but it takes a longer time. So you got to weigh the pros and cons there a bit. But I think at the end of it, I think it might be kind of a similar quality. I still have the same problems that I had with the other one, where you got to sculpt in the tops here. So, but I'm keen to see when I start fixing these, which ones are the easiest one to do. If it's worth it to take more pictures, or if it's enough with a little bit less. And here's another variation. It's a little bit smaller than the others, I think. Comes in at 33 images. All in all, pretty similar to the others. Okay, so here we actually have one of the absolute biggest one. So when I passed it by, it didn't look as intimidating as it as it really is when I see it now. So I think I started somewhere around here and thought, oh, I could capture this. But then it kind of just grew into this huge thing. So this is actually one of the more ambitious one. It's got 242 images, all in 100 megapixel, and all quite close when you get up to it here. So it took a long time to do this. And yeah, about a quarter in, I started regretting it, but it was too late to stop, so I just kind of finished it. But it's a huge piece, and well, I think I'm going to get something out of it, of course. But still, the time could probably been spent better doing other rocks. But yeah, now I have it. But there's lots of repairs going in as well. I kind of thought, I was kind of focused on this part, but then this here needs to be in there as well. And yeah, it's a little bit of a mess, but we'll see what comes out of this one. There's some cool detail here, though, that could really be worth having. You see, then I had to climb up on the tops here, standing everywhere. So this was not possible for me to climb all the way up there, so got some gaps. All right. huge piece. And here's another smaller rock. It's a little bit bigger than it looks here, but yeah, just another variation of the others. It's good to have a couple of these so you don't see the repetition when you start using many of these. And it's also good to get this because I kind of get I can use it as a reference. If I need to sculpt more variations of this, I can actually easily do it. Another rock, and this one is a little bit more special. I kind of like the shape of this. Also around here, it wasn't really my intention to grab these. I mean, they are a bit broken here, but I think a few of these ones could be nice to extract as well. So I have some small rocks around. See here. So that's the thing with all of these. It's good to take a little bit of the surrounding area with you when you scan it, so you can extract tiny pieces from it. All right, we are almost done. This is the last one, but it's also the first one. So this one I actually made and I published it on the Fab Store. So it's kind of a test subject to see how long it would take to make one of these and which kind of problems I would go through. So this is the scan. It comes in at almost 100 million. And it looks like there's almost nothing to do, but once you get into it, there's quite a lot of little sculpting things you need to do on top of all of these. But it's just a matter of adding bumpiness, a little bit of texture on it. But the problem is also to get the sunlight away and get the shadows away as well. But for this one, I actually used the Agisoft D-Lighter, and it worked pretty good this time. Sometimes when you use it, you get some huge color shifts that doesn't look good at all. But in this case, I was quite happy with the results. And the things it couldn't do, I could quite easily paint in. So this was not a huge operation at all. I think I finished this in well, let's say it took 3 days or something with everything until it was published, which is pretty good going for an object like this. And that means painting out all the little shadows and things like that. But this is not the final result, of course. And let's see here. So I got the UV'd. So this is a little bit of a look into how I do it as well. So I need to get an UV object because you can't UV map a 20 million poly object. It's just too slow. So I need to get it down to somewhere to 250,000. Then I will subdivide it back up to 60 million or so. So this will also have the UVs on it. And then in this case, I create a paint version as well. So you want your paint version, the one you're going to paint on, to be quite high res. It depends on which paint program you are using, but in my case, I'm just touching it up a little bit in 3D Coat. It works quite fine for me, but there are other programs that could do probably even a better job, but I quite like this workflow. But you need to get it quite high so you can calculate correct cavities, and the ambient occlusion would be as good as possible. But you don't want it to be as high that it slows down your machine. So you still must be able to paint properly, which I can do with around 10 million. It's fine for my system. It's a little bit high perhaps, but it still worked out quite all right. So yeah, looking forward to do all of these. So this is the last one that I have. And as you can see, it's quite a lot. So in total, I did 3 days, full 3 days of scanning in Petra. And out here in the Wadi Rum, well, I was walking around quite a bit, but yeah, let's say one day of scanning of these rocks. So in order to capture as much as possible, that's why it is important to be mindful of your time. So of course it would be better to just take one object and just stay a whole day or something and just get it absolutely perfect. But when you are out in the wild like this, you just don't always have that possibility, because the rain can come in here, a sandstorm can come in, and then I can't do anything for maybe a day or something. So you got to figure out a technique that works for you. Either you can do something where you have a first pass that goes really fast, do something like I've done here. You just do something that takes 15 to 20 minutes. And once you have that safety scan, you could go in and do maybe an even more detailed one. You can probably combine them as well. But so it does get a bit tricky because of the weather. So it is condition that you need to think about. So it's different than if you have a studio where the lighting is always going to be the same. Then you can do completely different things. You don't really have to think that much about how many images you take or anything like that, because you got all the time in the world. But even there, I suppose time is money. You can spend like 3 days scanning an object and then expect to be paid for that. So you need to find the sweet spot that works. And some things are easier to do when you come home sculpting, and some things are easier to nail in the field. You just got to figure out what works for you. So for me, doing a bit of sculpting on a rock like this, it's pretty easy to do. So I don't worry too much if I miss a piece here and there. I can easily sculpt this in. This is like a half an hour operation to get this looking tip top. So no need for me to bring a ladder or anything like that to fix in these top points here. So that is fine. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed that scan reveal. So I like to do these scan reveals with all the objects that I did, so you know exactly what it takes to do a project like this. Not showing just what succeeded, but also my thinking, and maybe you can learn about that, and maybe you can drop some comments if you got a better way of doing things, what your experiences are, so we can all learn from each other. And in the future, in this series, we're going to dive deeper into things. So this will just be like a grand overview of the whole project, of all the objects that I have that I need to fix. Now, maybe not all of the objects are going to be fixed for the final Unreal Engine package, because it's quite a lot and it takes a lot of time, and I do have a different technique how much I would try to get in. But I think a few of these are going to be quite fast to make. But in the next video, we'll start with a proper deep dive scanning stuff. But I'm going to start easy. So I think I'll start with something like this, taking one of these rocks. We build it up slowly, doing more and more advanced. And then eventually, but not too far away, we'll do the treasury. It gives me time to think, gives me time to see what kind of problems I have with this. It's better to try to solve some of the issues on simpler things like this before you get to the bigger piece, because you always learn. Every project is a new project and new things you need to learn. So the more information I can get by doing these things from the start is better than to going to the absolute hero object straight away. So a couple of these, I'll do a rock or two, and then I'll do some of the buildings as well. And then I'll go to the tombs, the treasury, and the monastery. So I hope you join me for that. Stuff will come out pretty soon after this one. So see you around next time.